Here's a video comparison between the Urban Fun YBF, the new Tin Hi-Fi T2 Plus, the BLON03, the FIO FD1, also the Moondrop Blessing 2, which I have another version of, or another copy, I got two, and also the SSR. And I'll proceed. I'll start with bass, and then I'll time stamp these and put that in the first comment. See how this works out. Okay, starting with the bass using Marvin Gaye, Sexual Healing, right here, Marvin Gaye Gold. Ambitions as a Rider, Tupac Shakur. Violent Femmes, Please Do Not Go. Eurythmics, Sweet Dreams, Led Zeppelin, When the Levee Breaks. All of these are chosen because they're highlighting different instruments, a combination of instruments. Ambitions as a Rider is a mixed deck, low frequency hit. Marvin Gaye is the same, also a bassist. Violent Femmes is just a bassist with four strings loosened a little bit. Eurythmics is keyboards, and Led Zeppelin is a kick drum. And using that music, including Marvin Gaye, I'm a big Marvin Gaye fan, Sexual Healing. You can listen to the song, the very beginning of it, in particular. The whole song kind of plays out. In my opinion, my take on it in total, because these things don't just play bass, they play all the frequencies, and how does that put together and play. But just going on bass, I would say that the 03 is the most pleasing with the YBF, and very, very difficult to tell the difference between the two. Next would be the T2 Plus, which does have elevated bass and it's audible, but not on the same level as the 03 and the YBF. And then next would be the FD1 by FIO, which I thought was going to be more potent. I put the FIO FD1 and the T2 Plus really on a similar plane. They're not that bassy, with the T2 having better mids than the FD1. And then the B2 and the SSR are both tuned to a unique group. It's not audiophiles, because that's faithful to the reproduction, like that's the definition of it, and lacking in bass is not faithful to the reproduction of Marvin Gaye, Violent Femmes, Eurythmics, or any of the music that I listed. So those would obviously come in last. So that would be my take on the bass. Violent Femmes, Please Do Not Go is a four-string bass and goes out into the mids and then beyond. That sounded probably best on the YBF, which is maybe related to beryllium. The problem with the YBF is that they used a noble metal. I don't know what that actually means, and they had QC issue that they're still getting over. So if you get a good one, it's one of the better sets, and if you don't, and it's not. It's like gambling, which is not cool in this hobby, but just going on bass, the 03 YBF would be the same, the T2 Plus would be next, and the FD1, and then the B2 and SSR, and that would be the bass. Okay, we're at the mids now. On the mids, I'm using Black Sabbath Sweetleaf because of the drum play and the bass guitar, and a lot of that is going out into the mids, and if the mids are not presented right, there's a haze over the whole thing because of the distortion. Fleetwood Mac, Go Your Own Way, which is right here. Lindsey Buckingham, Stevie Nicks, Mick Fleetwood, also Christy McVie. So male and female voices can get kind of cloudy or scooped. Vocals being slightly back emphasize other parts of the replay and give kind of a sense of depth, so it's not necessarily a bad thing, but there's kind of a limit to where that can be acceptable. Elton John, Goodbye Yellow Brick Road, a lot of stuff going on in the mids, the piano, the vocals, amongst other things, and if the mids are a little bit back or not ideal or too forward, that'll kind of play itself out. Dire Straits, Sultan of Swing, the guitar solo is brilliant. Part of Mark's vocals exists there and how they sound. Listening to that music for the mids, I would say that the T2 Plus, which is the newest one, probably has the best mid delivery, if we're just judging on that, which is what I did, and it's why it took 2 days to do a video. I thought the T2s were quite good. And the next would be the YBF. Some 03 fans might disagree, but I think the YBF's bass to mid transition is very good, and for something like Go Your Own Way and vocals, seems to do it a little bit better than the 03. After that would be the 03. The B2 and SSR are not my type of tuning, and the mids sound kind of thin because the bass is light and the mids are slave to the treble, which is the most elevated part of the replay by far. Remember, that's an amplitude scale. Doesn't matter what you like, that's what that is, and when you're upping the treble and not really anything else, that's going to be the mids sound kind of thin to me. And I would put in last place the FD1 by Fio. The Go Your Own Way is one. Also Elton John, Sweet Leaf. The quality of the mids sounded like a clear V, more so than any of the other sets. I was surprised actually by that, so that's how I would rank that. And that would be the mids. Again, Black Sabbath, Sweet Leaf, Fleetwood Mac, Go Your Own Way, Elton John, Goodbye Yellow Brick Road, Dire Straits, Sultans of Swing. T2 to YBF to O3 to B2 SSR, and then last would be the FD1. And that's the mids. Okay, and finally we got the treble. And the treble I use Led Zeppelin, You Shook Me, because that's a loud, distorted guitar. Hey Hey What Can I Do, also by Led Zeppelin, because it's got a lot of cymbal crashes, and I OCD on that. Robert Palmer, Sneaking South Through the Alley, because there's a lot of keyboards. Robert is kind of scream singing a lot at times. Also Soundgarden, Black Hole Sun, there's actually a lot going on up there. And Metallica, Fade to Black. Busy, loud, can become kind of chaotic and just make it sound not good, like you would need some other set. So listening to those songs, it seemed like, this is Metallica, Ride the Lightning. Fade to Black is the fourth track. Using this music to judge the treble, I would say that the O3 by BLON is my preference, which everybody probably knows by now. I put it in my top tier. The T2 Plus would be very close to that. The T2 Plus is something that's tuned a lot like more expensive things. You can try to ding it on the technical ability because it's not, doesn't cost $2,000, but the dips and the peaks in the treble are the unique rainbow in this hobby, where bass and mids are really not something you can mess with too much. They can be a little forward or a little back, and bass can be elevated and traject into the mids and creep in and hopefully not bleed or bloat. So there's not a lot of flexibility in the bass and the mids and how many different ways you can do that. I could count them probably on my hands, like models of what I consider acceptable. Treble is, there's dozens and dozens and dozens of ways to do it. So this is my personal take based on my preference and also on my library, which is very, very important. So using those tracks, I'd say that the O3 and the T2 are doing it differently, but they're both very appealing. Maybe the T2 Plus is more for all kinds of libraries, whereas the O3 is more matching mine, but both of those played quite well. The YBF, let me go back for a second. The B2 by Moondrop, my issue with that set is its bass performance, because it doesn't sound like faithful to the original. It's actually not, but it's got good detail, and it gets that good detail by its quality of build, what's inside it, and the treble tuning. So I don't wreck that set, but it does do treble well. So I would put that right after the O3 and the T2 would go the Blessing, which people might be like, what? I'm talking just about the treble right now. After that would be the YBF, which is good, but it can sometimes, the blessing and the curse of beryllium is that it does bass well, but it seems to be hard to tame the treble on a lot of beryllium sets, like the Dunu Luna and the A8000 by Final. That set right in front of me is one that does it well, but that's because of the way they position the driver, which I'll get into when I do that review. Next would be the Fio FD1, which is too much treble, in my opinion. And it sounds in competition with these to be low res. Hate to say it, man. But doesn't play on the same level as Blessing 2 or the T2 Plus or the BLON03, which are different. Remember, the treble is a rainbow, enjoy what you want. This is based on my preference, and it's, I think, fairly consistent. I like variety because I don't want to have 5 sets that do the same thing. But if I had 5 sets, the FD1 wouldn't be one of those. That's it. If I listen to classical more, if I listen to certain music, I might put the Blessing 2 in my collection because I have so many earphones. It's not precluded from being in there, but because of what I generally listen to most of the time at this point in my life, that wouldn't actually be something that I'd rec. Personal taste. And conclusions coming next. conclusions. If you're watching this video, it's probably maybe for the newer items, which is the Tin Hi-Fi T2 Plus and the FIO FD1. For my, I'm still a BLON fan, and I like the YBF a lot. They're neck and neck. It's hard to tell the difference between the two at certain points. If you are looking for something that's got a little bit less bass but is overall a balanced presentation, you might want to consider the T2 Plus because of its price. It seems reasonable at $49 or $59, which all of these are reasonably affordable, and they give you high quality playback. So there's no losers in this competition. There's no throw-ins. Even the SSR, which I bash, that's because that doesn't match my taste, but it's got its own community. It's got its own clique because they listen to maybe K-pop or Vocaloid, or it's what you like, and what you like is good, and other people can't really tell you that. I do it, and I do it strongly, but I'm a reviewer. So is the T2 Plus worth it? For $60? Fuck yeah, easy rec. The FD1, I was hoping, you know, a dynamic driver. I talked with FIO, and there was some discussion about regional preferences, how it seems like Japan is a treble loving nation, and China is the mid loving nation, and the West is a bass loving nation. I got this going back and forth, having a discussion with FIO, and it's fascinating because it's kind of true. And I'm obviously American. I come from the West, and I do like a good low end. So if you've got the BLON03, should you move on? If you ever thought that maybe it's got too much bass for some of the stuff you listen to, the T2 would probably take care of that, and then maybe sometimes be your all-arounder. If you like the urban fun, same thing goes. If you sometimes find like that bass is a little bit too much, the T2 would be a good option for its price. The FD1 I wouldn't wreck, and you should probably wait for other people to come in and chime on the music that I use, which let me go through one last time. Tupac Ambitions is a rider, Marvin Gaye Sexual Healing, Violent Femmes, Please Do Not Go, Eurythmic Sweet Dreams, Led Zeppelin, When the Levee Breaks, to judge the low frequency. Mids, Black Sabbath, Sweetly, Fleetwood Mac, Go Your Own Way, Elton John, Goodbye Yellow Brick Road, Dire Straits, Sultans of Swing. Treble, Led Zeppelin, You Shook Me, also Hey Hey What Can I Do, Robert Palmer, Sneakin' Sally Through the Alley, Metallica, Fade to Black. Using that music specifically, I came to those conclusions. So T2 Plus is quite good. Is it top tier? For me in my library, probably no. I'd give it an A, but it's $60, so I think it's quite good. If you ordered it and are like, oh, I wanted it, it's just a letter, man. You know. So that's it, and I'm out. See if I can organize this in a Window Movie Maker editor, ghetto editor, and I'm out.